Good morning. This is Don the Idea Guy of dontheideaguy.com. It is Wednesday, November 2nd, and you're listening to episode 37 of Running Through My Mind, the only broadcast from a parking lot. And I'd actually planned on talking about NaNoWriMo today because yesterday was the first day of National Novel Writing Month, and I'm diving in on it this year, and I'm actually just a little over my daily word count on day 2, and I'm rather proud of that because I've never been at my word count even this early in the month. So I'm off to a strong start, baby. And I was going to talk a little bit about writing, and in some sense I might get back around to that in a second, but I was really excited when I checked my email this morning, because I am one of those guys who checks their email in the morning no matter what the productivity experts tell you to do. I check my email. That's where the opportunities come in, so I make no apologies about that. It works for me. And I got an email from a listener. I got a listener email. His name is Lee, and he was listening to episode 33. And Lee actually learned about me first through the Side Hustle Nation Facebook group, which is interesting because I just had a Skype session with Nick Loper last night. We're planning some cool idea-focused projects for Side Hustle Nation. So everything's connected. Everything's connected. I'm a firm believer in that. Anyway, Lee wrote me an email that he was listening to episode 33, which was the Thinking and Dreaming Aren't Doing episode. And here's his message. You mentioned at the end of the podcast to send you a message, so I'm taking you up on the offer. That episode describes where I am currently. When you said you've been working on the card game idea for 2 years, this made me think how I've been working on an online course for 2 years. My main work is freelancing online, which is my bread and butter work. I've been working on adding revenue streams, so working on a course, ironically, to help others freelance online. I've mapped out a plan for the different lessons of the course and created a handful of lessons already. My main struggle is getting the lessons created. I lack motivation in getting the lessons actually made. My bread and butter freelance work takes most of my energy and focus, so trying to work around creating the course around completing my own freelance work. I have scheduled in days to work on the course throughout the month, but find myself drawn to other tasks to avoid creating the lessons. Before I know it, the days are gone, and I have to move on to other projects. So this was a very cool email to get because it shows me that at least one person's listening to the show. Thank you very much, Lee. You're that guy. I knew there was somebody downloading episodes. This really dovetails nicely into the eternal struggle of anybody who's trying to work on a project. And there's a couple of things you can do here, Lee. My suggestion is just do a brief beanstorming session with you here, and I can't ask you a follow-up question because I'm recording the episode live and you're not around, but let me take a sip of my DripJoy coffee, #sponsor, and kind of recharge my mental idea generation tool called my brain with some caffeine. As you know, DripJoy Coffee is the sponsor of the podcast and has been for about the last month. You can find out more information about DripJoy Coffee at dontheideaguy.com/DripJoy. They're a coffee subscription service, but they send them to you as joy cups, joy pods that fit into your K-Cup, your standard Keurig brewer, even though they've manufactured one of their own, which I might have to hit them up for one of those. I do want to try their custom brewer to see if it enhances the flavor of the coffee at all. Today I'm drinking Morning Joy, which is kind of their signature blend. And my advice is, because it's a lighter roast and their medium to darker roasts are so good, is to actually take the Morning Joy K-Cups and brew it on the 8-ounce setting at strong, because you'll get a stronger flavor out of the lighter roast. But anyway, if you want more information about their other blends, you can visit dontheideaguy.com/DripJoy. Okay, back to the Beanstorm. So Lee, interestingly enough, a course has been on my list for a while as well, and I bounced around a lot of different ideas on what to do. I've also shared that I'm an investor in Jason Zook's project Buy My Future, and as an owner of his future, a couple of the products he's produced that now I own or have access to for life is a workbook tool called Of Course Books, and his online course platform called Teachery. So the Of Course Books is a way to generate interactive workbooks and then embed them into a course platform. It works at all course platforms, but it works especially well at Teachery because it was made to do that. So it's been on my list to generate a course as well, and I went back and forth on what I was going to do, and I would put it off, for a year or more. I mean, I've wanted to do a course since before I knew who Jason Zook was. It's just a matter of getting around to it, right? And I don't want to do it bad enough, or I would have finished it already. What brings this to my head now is I literally just launched an almost course yesterday. So on the first day of NaNoWriMo, of National Novel Writing Month, I knew I wanted to write my book. One of the things that I use to map out the plot points is something called the hero's journey, which was made famous by Joseph Campbell and his work with basically dissecting mythology. And he found that the hero in basically every myth and every culture follows a similar set of follows a similar path throughout their stories, and he put together this hero's journey map of 12 different steps laid out in 4 stages. So I knew I was going to use that tool, but I didn't have a workbook for it. It was looking at articles online or highlighting passages in a book. A great book on that is The Writer's Journey. But I didn't have a tool to allow me to apply it directly to my storyline. So I thought I would put together an interactive workbook using Of Course Books. So I broke down each of the 12 steps. I broke down the 4 sections of the journey. And when I put down what the stage was, I asked questions about my character and what their situation was in regard to this stage of the journey, right? And then there's a blank in the workbook that I can fill out. I figured since I was producing that for myself, other people might want it too. So I used Teachery to put together a basic course. I call it Writer's Worksheets. And I embedded the interactive workbooks into the courses and launched. I just hit publish. Now the intent is I'm going to add more Writer's Worksheets as I go. But for right now, that was the minimum viable number of lessons. There's 5 lessons. One is the complete journey in one lesson. The other breaks the journey into the 4 different stages. And then there's 3 questions per stage because those are the steps within each stage. If you want to check it out, you can go to dontheideaguy.com/writers worksheets. And that'll take you to the landing page. It'll give you more details about the course itself. So it's not a complete piece, but it's launched, and there's content that I think is of value to at least to writers there already, and I plan to add to it. So I'm charging $5 for it. If you want it, it's $5, and you'll have access to it as I add the other worksheets to additional lessons. The price will go up for other people, but if you buy in at the $5, it's yours. Even if you just want to look at what a half a course looks like or a quarter of a course looks like, it's something you may want to investigate because I just decided I was going to do it, and I took a couple hours to do it. It took me an hour to pull together the questions and to customize the questions so that I wasn't copying from anybody, and I reworded them. I'm really good at asking questions, so I added questions to the stages to help a writer map out what their hero's journey was going to be. And then I hit publish. I put it on a platform where people could buy, and I hit publish, and that took another hour. You could do this with your freelance course, Lee. You don't have to do the course from start to finish in one shot. You could do one lesson. Why don't you do the lesson about how you decide if a freelance life is good for you? And perhaps part of that lesson is you explaining that freelance business ebbs and flows. And when it's flowing, you got to make sure you're getting the work done so that more freelance work comes your way. And that's why you're going to have this course trickle out as time allows. I would absolutely set a schedule. So maybe it's going to be one lesson every 2 weeks. Maybe it's one lesson every 2 weeks. And have a low buy-in for that. Let people sign up for it and go along with you on this journey, on your hero's journey of developing this course, and let them buy in at a low rate. Maybe it's $5 a lesson. Every time you post a lesson, increase your rate by $5, and the people who buy in early will get all the lessons for that for $5. The people who sign up early, the people who have faith in you and believe in the content and are in there from the get-go, they should be rewarded for their faith. They should be rewarded for traveling with you and their patience along the journey. So charge them the low rate, and then every time you put another lesson out, tack on an increase. So if you want to sell that course for $100 and there's 10 lessons, charge $10 per lesson. And every time you add a new lesson, bump your rate up another $10. That will encourage you from a revenue standpoint that every time somebody signs up for $10, you're like, oh man, it could have been 20 or it could have been 50. And that will encourage you to complete the lessons sooner. Another strategy on this might be to take on an individual who wants to build their freelance business in some form of coaching. So someone who's new to the freelance scene wants to start, enough about them, or you interview them to know that they're going to stick with this. And maybe it's a complementary service so that you can offer their service along with your freelance business. I don't know what your freelance business is. Let's say it's design. Perhaps you get together with a freelance illustrator so that maybe there's even some freelance projects you can work on together. But you're helping them build up the business side, finding customers, structuring contracts, prospecting, getting paid, advising them on the software they should use to track time and billing. But you can break down your lessons. You said you already had your lessons actually mapped out. You already have an outline, which is great. That's the first thing you should do. But why don't you have your course, your lesson construction built around coaching this individual? So you said you were having a problem actually putting together the courses, even though you had the material and the content you wanted to cover. Why don't you treat it as a recorded series of freelance coaching with this one individual? So meet them once a week using a Skype session or a screen share so that you can show the different pieces on your screen. There's lots of tools out there. Screencast-O-Matic is one of them. You could do it with Google Hangouts. There's no shortage of video capturing tools out there, right? Even down to Skype. But why don't you have each one of these things be you teaching your protege, your mentee, the lesson of the week, the lesson lifted directly from the course content you already started structuring and putting together. Every week that goes by, each session that you do with this person, you're recording it, and you can actually take that video, take that recording, take the transcription of the lessons as you've laid out the lesson plan, and post that as a new lesson on the website. Perhaps you take that piece and combine it with that $5, $10 escalating cost of the course through each lesson you publish. You might be able to combine them. In addition, you might be able to set it up, depending on who the person is and the value you're bringing to it. You may be able to actually generate revenue from coaching that individual. Maybe you've got 2 or 3 people, and 2 or 3 people pay you, I don't know, $100 a month to help them build up their freelance business in this mini mastermind of you and 1 to 3 people. So each of the 3 individuals that might be part of your small group could ask different questions to build out on the course material as well. And you're actually tracking their journey, and the people taking the course for years afterward will be traveling right along with them as you lay out the path on the freelancer's journey, which, by the way, that could be a good name for your course, the freelancer's journey. All right, Lee, I think I've laid down some value for you today. I've actually generated some ideas through this conversation that I think I can apply to future projects as well. And I hope our other listeners have gotten some valuable ideas out of this little mini Beanstorm as well. That's all for today. I'll be back for Thursday. Maybe we'll get around to talking a little bit more about NaNoWriMo. That's easy for you to say. Tomorrow. Until then, this has been Don the Idea Guy. I will share the links in the show notes, as I always do. And we will get together tomorrow. Until then, visit dontheideaguy.com. Follow me online. Toss out a question to me, just like Lee did, and maybe I'll answer you in a future show. Bye-bye.